And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports for an exciting update on Wednesday, which you probably didn't expect to have. And just as well, because there's a bit of a depth in rugby news, but now we have something really to sort of pick apart and get excited about. Rassie Erasmus has named his squad for the Argentina test, a 33-man squad, and no real surprises, to be honest, which I think was always kind of going to be the case. I'm almost a bit surprised it's not maybe a wider squad for next week down in Durban, where they might look at potentially giving in a couple of other players an opportunity. But it's very much a squad to see out the rest of the Rugby Championship and to make sure that we win the Rugby Championship. And there are a couple of big players missing, and there aren't any really players returning, to be honest. So it's still very much the core group of what we've expected, minus the players who are injured. And big frustration with some of the players that are injured, like Alua Diago, for example, who was starting to look a bit more like his best throughout the Rugby Championship. Now will not be available for the next two tests. Hopefully will be available for the end of year tour. Jean-Luc Dupré, who was named in the side and then was sick and was supposed to play in the side and then got injured, and he has been ruled out of these two Argentina tests. And you kind of start to wonder, when will he ever get the opportunity to put on the green and gold once again? And Apelele Fassi also confirmed out of these two tests. So if you look at the squad, those are your 33 players that will represent this Springboks in the next two games. And it's pretty straightforward. Let's go through it, shall we? So in the forwards, we have got Peter Steph du Toit, Thomas du Toit, Eben Etzebeth, Vincent Koch, Siya Kolisi, Wilco Louw, Malcolm Marx, Bongi Manambi, Franco Mostert, Oxen Chair, Ruan Nokia, Quacha Smith, Arjes Neyman, Manus van der Merwe, Marco van Staden, Bowen Venter, Jan Hendrik Wessels, and Jasper Wiese. So Jean-Luc Dupré dropping out, Alua Diago dropping out, nobody really coming in. We don't really need anybody to come in, to be honest. We've got the cover we need. I mean, we've still got, for example, like 4 lock options in an Eben Etzebeth, Franco Mostert, Arjes Neyman, Ruan Nokia. So you've got pretty much every single position covered there. The only sort of maybe question mark is that there's only one out-and-out eighth man in the form of Jasper Wiese, but we've already seen Siya Kolisi play there, so he will cover the number 8 jersey. And apart from that, you've got all the cover you need in there as well. In terms of the backs, Damien Delende, Faf de Klerk, Andre Esterhazen, Sasha Feinberg, Gomezulu, Ethan Hooker, Cheslin Colby, Jesse Creel, Marnie Liebok, Makazolo Mapimpi, Kanan Moody, Honjay Pollard, Kobus Reinach, Morne van den Berg, Damian Willemse, and Grant Williams. The big a surprise for me here is Makazolo Mapimpi retained whilst Edward van der Merwe is fit. And it goes to show how timing is everything. I personally would have Edward van der Merwe ahead of a Makazolo Mapimpi, who doesn't seem to be sort of playing at the moment, doesn't seem to really be within the sort of top 4-5 wings at the moment, as hasn't really played at all much this season. And I think that Ethan Hooker, the way he played against New Zealand, for example, has become really difficult to drop him. And I think that he's all of a sudden gotten himself ahead of Makazolo Mapimpi, in which case I think there's far more value in having Edward van der Merwe in the squad to be around the squad and to continue training and aligning with them than Mapimpi, who I just don't think gets to the next World Cup. I think that's the only reason that I'm surprised he's there. I just don't see him getting to the next World Cup. And as a result, for me, having an Edward van der Merwe in the squad makes a lot of sense. The only other surprise there is we still got our 4 scrum. Faf de Klerk has been retained. And Morne van den Berg, we haven't seen him. I reckon we might see him in Durban. And I think that it'll be a big opportunity for him to potentially play with a Sasha, for example, maybe play with a Marnie Liebok. I do think we'll see him within the next 2 tests, as well as potentially Faf de Klerk, because we look at something like a Vincent Koch. We have not seen Vincent Koch yet in the Rugby Championship. We have not seen Faf de Klerk in the Rugby Championship yet. Bongi Manambi, I think he's moved down to almost even 4th choice hooker at the moment, because Jan Hendrik Wessels is an option at hooker. You've got Manus van der Merwe, who I really rate. And all of a sudden, you've got to look at, planning-wise, where does Bongi Manambi fit in? Is he there for experience and as a safety net, or is he still pushing for the number 1 or 2 spot? And I think what we saw against the All Blacks is a lot of these players taking their opportunities. And as a result, they're becoming quite difficult to leave out. But this coaching staff almost feels like they don't want to phase out some of maybe the older players. Like for me, Vincent Koch, I don't think, he's somebody that we could replace within the squad. I think Mapimpi could potentially be replaced in the squad. I think Mbadambi, for example, doesn't necessarily need to be in the squad. And we're looking apparently about taking about 30 odd players over to New Zealand. So very interesting to sort of see how that all kind of pans out and what the plans are with regards to our next 7 tests, the final 7 tests of the year. And we're going to go into what Rassie Erasmus has to say about the test tour. So in terms of injuries, for example, the immediate ones from the initial squad were Lourdes de Jager, Jean-Luc Dupré, and Apre Lefassi. He then lists Gerard Stennekamp, Frans Balherbe, Samrat, and Kurt Lawrence on the injury list. So, for example, somebody like an Ntuka Tunu, for example, is fit and available, but not picked. Edo van der Merwe is fit and available, not picked. Asante Ntlabakanye is available, but they're not picking him until he sorts out his sort of whole defense with the doping charges at the moment. So they're basically leaving him for there. So there's 18 forwards and there are 15 backline players. They will meet in Durban and start with the camp. So basically, I think the medical assessments on Thursday, which is obviously tomorrow. There are further 3 players could be added to the group later in the week, with the group up to 30 players set to travel to London. So I think if we look at those 3 players potentially, going through medical assessments, I wonder if an Edo van der Merwe is one of those players, for example, in terms of he's back and played apparently a preseason game for the Sharks, but is he fully fit? Can he be added to the squad? Is he sort of ready there? I'll be interested to see who the other 2 players are. Maybe Ntuka Tunu is one of those players, for example. Or maybe it's it's somebody like even maybe a Lourdes de Jager. Maybe they're having a reassessment, for example, with regards to it. But my gut says no. They've announced that he's not playing. They've been ruled out of contention at this stage. So that kind of makes it seem as if they're completely out. So, yeah, in terms of what he's had to say about it, Rassie says, this group of players have been together for over 13 weeks now, and they've shown that they are the right players for this big task against the Pumas. We've chopped and changed our squad a fair bit this season, playing a total of 46 players in our last 8 matches, including the Barbarians match. And by training together almost daily, we are confident these players are these are the players who can give us the best shot to try and retain the title. The fact that the younger and older guys have been training with one another and against one another on the field almost daily really paid off last weekend, and we have no doubt that if we continue showing our faith in these players, we will get the best out of them. Speaking about the injuries, he said, we are blessed with talent in South Africa, so it is sad that as we are for players such as Lourdes, Jean-Luc, Apre, Kurtley, and many others, we have capable guys to fill their boots. We are also very fortunate to have many versatile players who can play a few different positions, and they are equally adept in each of them, regardless of what position they play. So, yeah, I'm not worried at the moment. And as I said, I don't think there are too many surprises in the squad. I don't think people are going to be up in arms with regards to the selections that we've made. I don't think people are going to sit there saying, why is this player in? Why is that not player? I think there are players who could potentially come in. I think, Vincent Tuka, for example, wouldn't look amiss in the squad and be really good for him. I still think that he needs to get more exposure. But we've got all the cover we need in the squad, and it kind of ticks all the boxes, which is the main thing at the end of the day. So what do you think of the squad? What are your thoughts? Where are we at, for example? I'm going to go through some of the comments now, get your sort of thing. I'm going to ask in the comments as well, are you happy with the squad? And that's my big question. Are you happy with this squad? A simple yes or no. And if you say no, as always, we want to know why. You can't just come in and say, no, I'm not happy. Well, why aren't you happy? Who don't you like in the squad? Who would you like in the squad? I don't like the sitting on the fence. Well, not sitting on the fence, but the throwing out something like I'm not happy with the squad without giving us any sort of reason as to why. Why. So get your comments in and let me know where you are with all of this and kind of what you're thinking. And I'm just going to refresh this over here, and then you can get to the comments. Also, please, by the way, we are always looking for new members to join the Forever Sports Members Club. It is the pinned comment, so please do consider becoming a member on the road to trying to get to 250 members. We're about 220 now. Need another 30 members to get to that mark. And if you'd like to feature in the Rassie's Coaches Corner at the bottom there, please do consider sending a super chat. Drop some hot takes, people. Drop some hot takes. And mentioning over there the fact that Vili is out of the squad, and I was going to get to that now. I think he'd become a bit sort of surplus to requirements, to be honest. I think that, again, we're looking at injuries. I wonder if Quinn Horn isn't going to be involved in the squad on coming after Thursday, or else we have to wait and see exactly what Willie Leroux is going to have to say and whether he's going to be involved in the squad. So, I don't think there's too many surprises in the squad. Really out, I don't think it's that big of a surprise, in all honesty. I don't think that he is ahead of, for example, a Damian Willemse. And again, we have to wait until Thursday to find out who's going to be the additional players to add on to that. My gut says he'll probably be one of them. But you've got a Sasha Famagoma-Zulu who covers 15, for example. Damian Willemse who covers 15. So that is where we're kind of with that. So let's go through some of the comments and see what we have to say. And Bradley says, I think Pollard and them boys get another chance. Ultimate Sharpshooter saying the one big change of the team is the absence of Willie Leroux. W says, unfortunately for JL, his chance is gone. At some point, Harnicom and Alo will be available for number 8. The Incubus Visa at second row for depth. 7-year wait for test continues. Josh is saying, Vincent Tuka, I wanted him in the team. And Ultimate Sharpshooter reckons surely Morna gets his start next week. King Power reckons Mpimpy is likely for experience like Willie Leroux may not even play. And Double says, I'll be annoyed if Bongi gets time over Marnus. Evan says, Bongi likely to get a chance to prove himself for the Northern Tour. Ray reckons that Quan Horn will definitely be on standby, 100%. Kid Senecal says, reckon Quan would have been in the squad if he weren't involved in the Currie Cup final. Well, he could still go. I think they're only meeting up on Sunday, or or gathering on Sunday to start preparations on Monday. So in theory, he still could, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does. For example, I think that he does get involved in that. So Evan says, happy, yes, but would be happier with Tuka, another 8, Van Heerden and Horn added in. Tyler Hale saying, Pimpy might get a start in Durban on his home ground as a potential last start for him and then see him being phased out. He's still playing at a high level, but don't see him making 2027. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think he will make 2027, to be honest. So that is a legitimate concern. And that's why, as much as I love the man and I love what he's done for us, and we owe him so much. I mean, he scored our first ever try in a Rugby World Cup final. I just don't see him making the next World Cup. And as a result, kind of give us opportunities to Neville van der Merwe, give us opportunities to an Ethan Hooker and the likes of that. So MC for Dizzle says that I would like to see Horn and Vince to be included, but this is so I can't complain. And Mass123 says, I think at the end of the year, tour squad might look different. I don't think it actually will. And I'll tell you why. So I've done, a couple of years ago, I went back and looked at all the historic end-of-year squads, mid-year squads, what Rassie Erasmus tends to do. We don't tend to experiment at end-of-year squads. We might more this year because we've got an additional test. We've got a Japan and we've got 5 tests. So we might take a bit of a bigger squad. We might look at taking like a 36-man squad over, maybe even a 40-man squad. But in general, before and previously, even for example, like the likes of last year, we didn't see a case of taking younger players and a highly rotated squad. We generally took the tried and tested players and kind of trying to go out and get results. Look, last year was maybe slightly different. I think slightly better opposition. We had Scotland, England. He had Scotland, England. We didn't play Ireland last year. Scotland. It was a Grand Slam. Scotland, England, Wales, and Italy. I think. Was it? Yeah. Didn't play France last year. Didn't play Ireland. So yeah, and even then we didn't take a particularly rotated squad, despite maybe playing a weaker version of a tour that we got this year, for example, which is much better. So according to answer your question, it's the squad for the 2 Argentina tests. And, well, it's the squad for the first test. And then they will be basically reducing down to a 30-man squad, or up to a 30-man squad to go over to London for... They might actually take more, to be fair, if we win next weekend, for example, and we might be winning the Rugby Championship in London, because I think there's a bit more incentive to have the players there to celebrate with the trophy. Hensel says, not happy with the squad, needed to pull 2-3 young guys in, even if it's just to be around the squad. Well, I think there are young guys, in fairness. I mean, new people to the squad that weren't playing a year ago. Bowen Fenter, look at how much of a role he suddenly had in the squad. Jan Wessels is a young player. Marnus van der Merwe is a new player in the squad. Ruan Nokia is still a young player in the squad. You know, if we look at the backs, you've got a Morning van den Berg who's new in the squad. Sash van Zulu, Ethan Hooker. Kenny Moody's still young. So I think that, again, I think that maybe there's 2 or 3 players you could bring out. You could leave out Maxima Pimpy, bring in Edel van der Merwe, or a Quine Horn, for example. I think would be a good chat. You could leave out could probably leave out a Bongi Manami, but for who? I don't think there are that many hookers who are banging the door down at the moment. So I think but you could probably leave him out and bring in a Vincent Tuka, for example. That for me would be a decent decision to make, because we've got 3 hookers in the form of Marnus van der Merwe, Malcolm Marks, and Jan Wessels, which means you don't necessarily need to have a Bongi Manambi in the squad. But I think it's very interesting to see how this is all starting to shape up, to be honest. And at the end of the day, also, I think what for me would have been interesting is, had we lost that second test, how much would this have changed? How much would we have gone, well, the Rugby Championship is gone, let's play some youngsters, let's bring some new faces and let's try and build? Or would they have gone, oh, sure, but we have to go basically try and win these last 2 games, otherwise we're going to get sacked, for example. But the fact that we did win that test means that at this stage, we are very much in the running to win the Rugby Championship. And as a result, we've picked a squad to retain the title, in Rassie Erasmus's words. You know, this is not a squad to just go and play 2 tests. This is a squad to go and win the Rugby Championship. And I think we'll probably see 2 very strong sides going out against Argentina to try and get this. Jerome says, infuse young guys into the group. Evan says, think some minor experimentation opportunities against Italy, Wales, and Japan. Well, I think against Japan and Wales in particular, or maybe even look at Wales and Italy in particular, you'll be able to rotate. We've obviously got the 2, and the tour set up so nicely in terms of Japan, then I think it's France, then I think it's Italy, and then I think it's Ireland, or Ireland and France swap. It's one of those 2. But we basically go a tier 2 nation, tier 1, top 4 nation, tier 2 nation, top 2 nation. So we've kind of got the opportunity to almost sort of rotate strong team, and then you can basically do what you want with the final game, which I'm 99% sure is Wales. So we can really, really change up our squad at the end of the year. So it's a really good position to be in. But I think that the main thing, our goal for the next 2 games is not necessarily squad building. I think that for these 2 games, it's about winning. You got to go and beat Argentina twice, hopefully with a bonus point twice, and win the Rugby Championship. We win with a bonus point next week, for example, and either Australia or New Zealand win without a bonus point, we will be at least tied at the top of the log. And that's where we want to be. And that means that we go to London, for example, with our fate in our own hands, and a bonus point win with a decent margin ensures the Rugby Championship title. And that's got to be the objective at this stage. You know, I don't care about rotation in these next 2 tests. We can rotate against Wales, we can rotate against Italy, we can rotate against Japan, as far as I'm concerned. These next 2 tests have almost become the most important 2 tests of the year. Obviously, you've got Ireland, obviously, you've got France. But we win these next 2 tests with bonus points, for example, we get a trophy. And I'm a big fan of chasing the trophies. We've always been really bad at not winning enough trophies in between World Cup cycles. This has been better because we've won the World Cup in 2023. We won the Rugby Championship in 2024. If you go and win the Rugby Championship in 2025, then that means if we go look at 2020, 2019 onwards, you've won 3 Rugby Championships, a British and Irish Lions series, and 2 World Cups in a 6-year period. So that is essentially 6 trophies in 6 years and 6 major honors. That is a really, really good period. Then we could talk about this being possibly the greatest sort of period of Springbok rugby, because we're seeing actual trophies and not just previously where we kind of won a Rugby Championship here and there. But even beyond that, we've got the Freedom Cup and we've retained the Freedom Cup. You know, getting the Nelson Mandela Shield and winning stuff like that. You know, there's a trophy against Argentina. Even those sort of small minor trophies, for example, are important. You know, it's important to learn to win games that mean something. And we've been doing that. And then next year, we've obviously got the greatest rivalry tour, which I assume will be contested for the Freedom Cup. And we've got 4 tests next year against the All Blacks. How cool is that? 4 tests against the All Blacks. So next year, we've got an opportunity to really ramp up our World Cup preparations by playing and trying out certain tactics against one of the best teams in the world for 4 tests. And that doesn't, and we don't even know who's going to come in mid-year. If I had to guess, I reckon Scotland's a decent shout. We haven't had them in a while. We haven't had France in a while, but we don't really want France. They don't really send their best players down in mid-year. We've obviously had Ireland recently. We've had Wales recently. We haven't had England in a while. So I think we're going to see either an England or Scotland incoming series, or else we'll see a sort of Fiji, Japan, Samoa type of thing, which wouldn't be great. I'm really hoping Scotland for me, Scotland and England. An England series would be really good because we haven't had them in a while, and they're getting their act together. So I think Scotland and England will be a really cool series, incoming series next year. I really hope we don't have another Wales series, for example. We're not going to get another Ireland series, and I don't foresee a French series. Maybe we might see a French series, but I'd be surprised, in all honesty. Going to some of the comments again. Adrian said, I don't like the squad because Krappies and Hooker is allowed to learn on the road with the squad. I would like to see Troki, Ruan Fento, or Renzo also gradually being exposed to the system. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that Renzo du Plessis, somebody they've mentioned they want to get involved. But I think he might go at the end of the tour, to be honest. They've spoken about the fact they really want him to get an opportunity and to get a cap. Because that's somebody that they obviously rate. He's had a great Currie Cup as well. But he is a bit of a Currie Cup specialist, old Renzo du Plessis, isn't he? Didn't have the strongest URC campaign. In fact, JC Pretorius was keeping him on the bench. And fair. I mean, I've never really had a problem with the fact that JC Pretorius was being back because he had the most turnovers. I think he won some of the most turnovers in the URC. So, but yeah, there are certain players who I think obviously could be added to the squad. But I think there's time. And I think it's a big URC campaign coming up for Quine Horn, Ruan Venter, a big championship season coming for Toki van Jean Augustus. Because it's now or never, really, in terms of that 2027 World Cup selection. Vince Tuka, for example, he starts winning man of the match performances week in, week out at URC level. It becomes difficult to leave out. Evan Lewis, I think, as well. Although I do think he's had his opportunities in the squad, and he's just never really been able to take them and been able to force himself to be a big part of that squad. So it's an interesting situation. I don't know what to say about the Evan Lewis situation. I keep saying that I just think that whatever reason, I just don't think they rate him particularly highly, and that's the reason why he hasn't played all these games, despite being one of the top performance players of the last few years, one of the top South African players. In fact, in the first year of the URC, he was the URC player of the season in South Africa. So it's a lot of speculation with regards to what he's done. K3S, Scotland was supposed to be an SA in 2020. Yeah, so we're overdue a Scotland tour. I'd love a Scotland tour. And I will leave you for a watch along because I've never watched Finn Russell live because I had food poisoning during the World Cup and I couldn't get there. And it was one of the most heartbreaking moments of my life. I couldn't get to the Scotland versus Ireland game. So I will go to a Scotland game next year if they come. I don't care where it is, I'm going. I have to see Finn Russell play it in my lifetime. I have to see it happen. Russell Pollard says, we do need to build more depth at tight head lock. Can't just rely on Archie and Eben, who are generational talents. There needs to be someone stepping up to the plate. Well, interesting was the fact that Ananto was quite disappointing, got injured because Lourdes Diaga starting there over the weekend would have been an interesting experiment because if he had coped and he had done a very good job there, then maybe we'd have a bit more of a relaxed situation. Salman Murat is the other option there, as well as a Kubus Visa. Both of them, I don't think, have really taken an opportunity. Look, Kubus Visa, I don't actually think he's ever started in the number 4 jersey. But he is a big option there. And Sensible Tom Fully says, not to mention the Qatar Airways Cup. Oh, yeah, I mean, that is... And I mean, nobody else has ever won the Qatar Airways Cup. That is basically just nicknamed it the Springbok Cup because no one's ever won it yet besides us. Can't forget it. Evan was earlier saying, think the current squad contains the spine of the 2027 squad. Good age balance that will be improved upon between now and then. Yeah, it is a good age balance because, again, Vincent Koch, Maximo Pimpi, I don't think necessarily make it. Big question marks about a Franco Mossa, but he hasn't played that often in the last few games. I think he still has something to offer us right now, whether he'll make the next World Cup, not entirely sure. Bongi Mnimbe as well. But that, for me, the main thing is that we beat... And in the last 2 games, we didn't have Vincent Koch playing. We didn't have Bongi Mnimbe playing. We didn't have Franco Mossa playing. We didn't have a Bongi Mnimbe. So I say Bongi Mnimbe. We didn't have a Maxwell Mapimpi playing, for example. Now we're not going to have a Willie LaRue playing. So we are seeing the next generation come through. we're so quick to say there aren't enough youngsters, but then when we talk about the players who aren't actually involved, you actually make you take a step back and you almost go, oh, actually, hang on, we are actually rotating and we are looking at new players, and this actually we are seeing a phasing out because, as I said, we're already not seeing Mapimpi with a big role. We're not seeing Abongi Manami with a big role. We're not even seeing Frans Maher because he's injured. We're not seeing Vincent Koch. We're not seeing Nava Leroux. We're not seeing who else did I mention? Franco Mostert. So that's already 6 players. Who else is injured at the moment? Now Lua Tiago is going to be injured, but he has been involved. But these are players who are all big parts of Jaden Hendrickson, for example. I mean, not different generation, but he's had to be replaced by Morne van den Berg. So there are new players. I mean, if we look at that squad, the players that haven't been to a World Cup yet, or didn't play in the last World Cup: Thomas du Toit, Wilco Low, Ruan Nokia, Marnus van der Merwe, Bowen Venter, Jan-Andrew Wessels. So that's 6 forwards. So 33% of our forwards in the squad didn't go to the last World Cup. If you look at the back line, Sasha didn't go, Ethan Hooker didn't go, and Morne van den Berg didn't go. So that's 3 players that haven't been to a World Cup. And in terms of age profiles, the only players who are older, in inverted commas, over there are Kobus Reinach and Maximo Mapimpi. Kobus Reinach is one of our top players. But everybody else are fine from an age profile. There's question marks maybe around a Damien D'Alendi and sort of maybe a Jesse Creel, Ches and Colby. But everybody else from an age profile point of view in the back line and a 5 to a point are actually fine. So I'm not worried at all. I think this whole idea that there aren't young players is a complete fantasy. We can't have 45 under 25s. This is not an under 25 team. This is a Springbok squad at the end of the day. And I genuinely do think that we are seeing a brand new look within the Springbok side. You just have to look at it holistically to see that, because there are changes and there are movements. So it's a great squad. Tokolo says, so Steve, you can't honestly believe that Finn Russell is better than Marnie. I think Finn Russell is the best far half in the world. Yeah, I'll stand by that, actually. Who's better? Romain Intermac on his day. Pollard on his day, maybe. Bowden Barrett maybe on his day. I still think he's the best fly half in the world. I think he's so talented. And I think he's such a fun player to watch. Look, Marlon's my boy. I'm gonna back Let Libok cook. And they must play against each other. But he's always been a cult hero of mine. I've loved Finn Russell for years and years as a player. So I'm desperate to go and see him play live. Sensible Tom Fulu says, yeah, I agree with you, Steve. Even though I understand the need to build depth, we can't keep using that as an excuse when we don't win TRC, Freedom Cup, etc. 100% on the same page there. I hate the concept of losing games, but we're building depth, because you can do both. And to be fair, this year we kind of have done both. We've only lost 2 games. I think we need to be very clear about that. And we were all very down in the dumps after that Wallabies loss and then the New Zealand loss. But it's amazing how that New Zealand victory has just added a whole new perspective to our season. We're still operating at an 80% win rate, for example. So you share the squad on the socials, yeah. Right, there we go. Hensel says, young guys you're naming is not new in the squad. Moody is young, but been around for 2+ years. Well, that doesn't make him not young anymore. So when you say you want new players, we must now replace Caden with somebody else because he's been in the squad. There's a completely different concept between young players and new players. We don't need new players necessarily. We're not going to replace Caden Moody because he's been in the squad. It's about an age profile. It's about who's going to be at the next World Cup. And Kane Moody is 22 years old. So he is still a young player. Regardless of the fact that he's a World Cup winner, he's still a young player. So if you still look at an age profile, our age profile, by the way, for that first test against the All Blacks, our average age was 29 and a half, if you want to get specific. So it's 29 and a half. That's not old. In fact, going into a World Cup final, that's almost exactly the age profile you want. A week later, I think we were 28 almost. I think almost 28 in the dot. Might have been slightly younger. But could have been 27, actually, to be fair. But the All Blacks, for example, that beat us in that first test, they were 28 and a half. So they weren't like massively younger than us. So we must be careful with obsessing too much about young players. And again, you look at, for example, the performance over the weekend and look at some of your best players. Yes, Damien Willemse. But I mean, Damien Willemse is 27. Was he 28 even? I'm trying to work out if he's younger than me or if he's my age. Because I was watching him at 29. I'm pretty sure he's my age. He's older than me. In fact, he's 2 years old. No, he's younger than me. Huh? Yeah. Oh, he's 2 years younger than me. Oh, that's depressing. Why do I keep thinking? The problem is, in my mind, I'm still 27. So he's 27. So I'm right in saying he's 27. I just forgot that I'm not 27. This sucks. I want to go back to being 27. Just Rock Up says, do you think there's going to be a change for starting 15 against Argies? There'll always be changes. With Rassie Erasmus, there'll always be changes with this side. But yeah, that's my main point, for example. Like Damien Willemse is 27 years old. He's still got potentially a decade ahead of him, maybe. At least 5 or 6 years of Springbok Rugby ahead of him. So it's not like we have to replace him. You know, Jason Colby's the same age as Jesse Creel, I'm pretty sure. No one's talking about replacing Jason Colby and saying he's not going to be at the next World Cup. So therefore, you shouldn't be saying the same thing about Jesse Creel. On form, maybe, but not on age. And that for me is also a big, big thing that we don't talk about. There's a difference between age and form. If you're not playing well, then there's a call and there's merit to drop you. If you're not playing well and your age profile doesn't suit you, there's less incentive to stick by you. But for example, like Kane Moody, even when he's had a couple of tough games, you're looking at him thinking, yes, but he's 22 years old. You know, there's such a good player there, and if we could just keep working with him, he can become world class for years and years and years. He's a generational talent, so it's worth the risk. For example, you're probably not going to make that risk with a 34-year-old, 35-year-old who's playing terribly. You're just going to say, like a Velu maybe, had a really bad game last time. Now he's not playing. Now he's not picked. I think he will play again, but again, we're sort of seeing that's a big decision, for example. Shout out to Tokolosh, who has sent a donation. Big thank you very much. So let's hit our goal. And I think it's registered. It's not registering on my side, but I'm pretty sure it has registered. Yeah, we're trying to get more of these lives. They're very cool. But yeah, so a big shout out to all of you guys, all the people that become members, all the people that send super chats. It's really, really appreciated. I don't think you guys realize how far it goes. In fact, we actually had a planning meeting this past week about a few things, and one of the big things we mentioned was Project 2027, the fact that we need to start sorting ourselves out for the World Cup, which is all of a sudden in 2 years' time, and obviously we want to try and go there so that we can give you guys things. I mean, like for example, we were the only ones sending out and doing the Rassie Erasmus team announcement press conferences, for example, and the midweek press conferences. So if we don't go in 2027, you might be able to get that. So things like super chats really do help us make sure that even if we don't go, we get a team on the ground over there. So big shout out to everyone that sent out, and big shout out to Tokolosh for sending out that one today. And Sensible Tom Fullery says, yeah, it's crazy how we're now in the driving seat of the championship after that one game, back in the boys to do it. Lance Stroll, get on my chat. Says nerves for the lineouts and scrums with Bongi and Koch. Well, assuming they even play, to be fair. Contender, here we go. I actually haven't read it, but Contender coming in with the wild selections as he does, saying, what about having a Sharks wing combo of Mapimpi and Hooker, shifting Colby to fullback, maybe giving more space to operate will allow for more play, otherwise putting Hooker at 12, Willemse 15. Not your most outrageous shafts there, Contender, but I actually don't mind it. The big thing is that Ethan Hooker, I don't think, is really at 14. Hasn't really played much rugby at 14. Nor has Mapimpi. So you kind of got two number 11s. Look, Hooker can play at 12 and 13. So maybe at 12 and Willemse at 15. Although I think Rassie Erasmus views him more as a 13 than a 12. That's what he has said previously in a press conference. But yeah, it is a much bigger... more likelihood of that kind of second selection rather than the first one itself. So yeah, it's really annoying that I think YouTube's a bit broken, to be honest, because it's not showing me what the the poll results are. So if I end it, will it show? Let's find out. Because at the moment it says 0 votes, and I'll be very surprised if yeah, here we go. There were 250 votes. 88% saying yes, saying not a fan of Lance Stroll. No, well, you know, the man doesn't know how to drive. So imagine it was the actual Lance Stroll. Imagine the poor chap is trying to like take his mind off the Grand Prix this weekend, and the fact he's going to crash out in Q1 again. Decides to jump in with a bit of Springbok. Maybe he's a massive undercover Springbok fan. And then all of a sudden, we're just abusing him in the comments. And he's back saying, shouldn't we try to keep this Tony board going with these inconsistent team selections, match changes each game? How can we keep momentum with this play style? Well, why don't we see? Alex says, didn't Ethan move to right wing on weekend when Grant went to wing? He did. We had to adjust. And he coped, in fairness. But again, that was a bit of a needs must situation. Just like he hasn't played there often. He could do it. Maybe he could do it. I mean, to be fair, I was surprised that he played at the wing. I would have thought they would have. They talked about him being more of a centre than anything else. So it is a surprise for me initially that they actually backed him on the wing. So yeah, no, he did move across, and again because Grant Williams had to go. We had to move. I mean, everything had to change, didn't it? We had Damien Williams start at 12, finish at 15. Grant Williams came onto the wing. Ethan Hooker started 11, moved to the wing. By the end of it, I think the only person that was playing, there were only 2 players who were playing in the same position that they started the game in the back line. And that was Kobus Radach and Kenan Moody. Everybody else shifted at some stage or came off. Pretty wild, actually. And so, yeah, we're gonna rock up. We're gonna basically wrap up there. It's been a nice chat. And I've been enjoying the morning live stream. So let me actually do the poll, last poll here. And I'm going to do the ones that I can commit to be honest, because the evenings just are a problem. So I'm going to ask you guys, what are you guys' preference for the live shows? I did ask a couple people, and they did say that mornings were an option. Lunchtime show. Yeah, I can't really commit to evenings because I've got so many other things happening in my administration capacity that I can't commit to them doing them regularly. With these morning shows, for example, I mean, this is the 3rd time we've been doing a morning show. I delayed it for an hour because we were expecting the squad announcement. Otherwise, we would have been live at 9:30. I've been quite enjoying the 9:30 slot. It's quite nice. I wake up, I go for a run, get some work done, whack on the show, chat to the buggers. And then I got the rest of the day. So I'm quite enjoying the morning shows. Late morning show will be kind of this time. You're sort of 10 o'clock, I suppose. 10 kind of vibes. So maybe this is the golden hour. Go and vote in the poll. Let me know. I tend to like the morning shows better. I think that's kind of working for us a bit better. Volley says, no monkey boy today. So he actually was there. He said it was a weak squad earlier. But I love the fact that we're now starting to get, and this is why I love the live shows. We can really start to build a community and chat about what people said the other day and stuff. Also, if you would like to become a moderator for the channel, please email this address: mail. Yeah, we need some more mods in our life to help get the chat going. For example, ask some questions, monitor the chat, especially during match day when things get very, very hectic. So please do, if you are a constant appearer on the channel and you'd like to get involved in the channel, please do send that mail. If we can get a bit of a team of mods just to coordinate some live streams and ask questions and make sure that everything in the chat is running smoothly and there's no abuse or anything like that. It's obviously quite difficult for me being one person to sort of check what's going on there. And so some moderators will be highly appreciated. So I know a lot of you guys do come here quite often. I'm not saying that all of a sudden you have to sign up and go to every single live stream, but a lot of you guys are on here anyway. So it just means we can make you a moderator, and it means that you guys can help run the conversation. And also if there are any dodgy things happening, you can kind of cut that out as well. So yeah, keep voting on the poll for the live show. I'm seeing that late morning show maybe, and I don't know what late morning is. I mean, 10 like this time. Are we saying this time is the golden hour? Because I'm very happy to do a 10 show. That works for me quite nicely. So maybe that seems to be the thing. I suppose maybe people can get into work, they can do their own work, and then they can know at 10 we chat rugby. And we'll be keeping doing this during the URC as well. There's a lot more to chat about than just the Springboks. Obviously, that kind of dominates our lives and our rhetoric and the likes of that. But URC's coming up. Lots to talk about with regards to that. We're going to be kind of building up to it next week. Can the Lions finally get to a URC playoff? You know, that shape is they have to. My mental health requires it. But we're going to win the Currie Cup on Saturday. So life is good. Life is good. There was something else I wanted to chat about the squad, and I can't remember what it was. It'll come to me. Oh yeah, in terms of the weekend, so obviously we're gonna have the Currie Cup, but we're gonna have it on Monday's show in terms of predicting the team. But hopefully by Friday or Saturday, those of you who have been around have been using my picks a little bit, I hope. But we want to do a big push for your team predictions. And basically, the entire system means you can go and select your starting 15. We're still on benches at the moment. That's becoming very complicated. But at the moment, you can go and predict your starting 15. And you can share it with your friends. You can download it, you can share it, and you can predict the side. So we want to try and see if we can get 100 people to predict their teams. We'll be dropping the link. Obviously, now we've got a squad. We can put it all together. We'll wait until Thursday to finalize exactly who's going to be in that squad, because there might be a couple of additions, apparently. That's what they said. They said they're going to assess a few people, and then there might be a few additions. But we want to try and see, can we get over 100 people to predict their Springbok side? And again, you get to download it. You can share it with your mates, for example. And we can really sort of start to see what everybody has to say and what all the chat is. Matt says, I always feel that we play better when Sia is captain. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that, to be fair. And I do think that it's been really good that we have seen him. We've seen other options, for example. And I think it's always a big learning curve and kind of understanding who your options are and stuff like that. I think people are being a bit overly critical on Jesse Creel and the way in that first test. I think there's a lot more than just his captaincy, for example, that was the issue on the day. Also, the suggestion that he's not a leader, for example, and he's not a potential captain, are quite off the mark. He's been around the block. He's known everything. If you meet him, if you know people, the way they speak about him, for example, very highly respected member of the squad. But it's good to go in the leadership group, you know, to make sure people understand what their roles are, that they have these roles. And yeah, so we're going to wrap it up there, people. Thank you very much. As I said, please do mail us if you are interested in becoming a moderator and joining the team, for example. We want to have more of you guys involved in the channel. At the end of the day, we had the tagline almost 10 years ago now, where we said, for the fans, by the fans. And all of a sudden, lots of people seem to have that tagline. But anyway, so yeah, this channel is for you guys. It is your channel at the end of the day, really, in terms of deciding what kind of content we do and stuff. So please do mail us if you're interested in becoming a moderator. Let us know what your name is, your username is. And we're probably going to create a bit of a Discord group. And we're going to work it all out there so that we can really grow this community. Because we are coming up to 100,000 subscribers, people. We are less than 4,500 away. We could get there within this month. Unlikely, but we're definitely going to get there this year, which is going to be exciting. So please do smash the like on the way out. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you guys all probably tomorrow morning for another live stream. We might not do it on Friday, but we'll definitely do at least 3 to 4 a week moving forward. And you guys know where to find me.